McFadden is also accused of resisting arrest. McKinney police say they responded to a call of someone asleep in the drive-thru of a Whataburger and found McFadden.
Y'all better put him in the Heisman. McFadden.
Stop it right there. You are currently looking at one of the greatest running backs in college football history, aka Darren McFadden. Just so you know that's not my opinion, let's back it up with some cold hard facts. He won the Doak Walker Award not once but twice, which goes to the best running back in the nation. To go on top of that, he was named SEC Offensive Player of the Year in back-to-back seasons. And last but not least, he was the runner-up in the Heisman Trophy race not once, but twice. Now that we've established some ground rules, let's go back to this frame. As you can see, there's 3 LSU players in front of him. What if I were to tell you this young man scored a touchdown on this play? I'm going to assume you probably say something along the lines of, how? And, well, this is how.
Say goodbye!
You heard the man, say goodbye, and that is just one of his many outstanding runs he had as an Arkansas Razorback.
80 yards, touchdown!
There's one word I would use to describe Mr. Darren McFadden here. Beast. And him dominating all throughout his college career wasn't really a shock to anybody because coming out of high school, he was one of the most highly regarded players, not just at his position, but in the entire nation. He was a 5-star recruit, enough said. When his college career came to an end, he was selected in the first round with the 4th overall pick. He signed a whopping, and this is back in 2008, $60 million contract. He had the world in the palm of his hands. Then, this happened. Yeah. You see it. If you can't figure out what this is, it's a mugshot. Darren McFadden's story, it really shows you the dark side of being an athlete. He did cause all these problems himself, which we're going to get into, you better believe that. But what I find so interesting about all of this is the fact that you don't hear or you haven't heard too many people talk about this. Yet again, I'm going to remind you, this wasn't some Joe Schmo Randeezy. This is one of the best running backs in college football history. I was so intrigued when I was doing all my research and gathering information for this story because growing up, he was one of the first players I ever really started to keep up with. Ironically enough, when he was coming onto the scene, that's when I myself was coming onto the scene as a college football fan. It was a perfect storm, and I remember seeing him in that number 5 uniform thinking, man, that dude can play. This is the Darren McFadden story. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hope all of you having a great and fantastic day. If not, hope this video can make it a little bit better. And randomly a few days ago, well, it was more so like a week ago, roughly 6 or 7 days, you get the point, I was sitting in bed thinking, wait a minute, what happened to Darren McFadden? It was one of those random thoughts that popped into my mind, and I said, oh yeah, we got to make a video on him, and here we are. Goes without being said, I'm excited to get into this video. Hope you guys are excited as well. If you have any recommendations for videos like this in the future, feel free to leave a comment down below. Strap in, buckle up, get you a snack, get you a popcorn, get your favorite meal you like to eat and watch a video, because trust me, I do the same thing. But alright, man, blah, blah, shut the crap up. Now, not Friday, do. Let's get into it. Woo! Man, oh man, we got good old Darren McFadden. And come on, man. You already know, to get into a story, we got to throw it all the way back to where things started. Mr. Darren McFadden grew up in a city we should all be familiar with, Little Rock, Arkansas. In high school, he was pretty much like every person we talk about in these videos, and it's the reason I like to skim through it. It's because you know what I'm about to say next. He flat out dominated, was one of the best players in the state, and every school in the country wanted him. His recruitment process was beyond simple. He kept it in state, he ended it early, and he decided to commit and sign with Arkansas. I think it's worth throwing in there that when McFadden got to Arkansas, they were not a very good football team. The year before McFadden got there in 2004, they went 5-6. In McFadden's freshman season in 2005, they actually finished worse. They were 4-7. However, McFadden was named Freshman of the Year in the SEC. Although Arkansas was terrible, McFadden was a light in the dark. He had over 1,100 rushing yards, averaging 6.3 yards per carry with 11 touchdowns as a freshman. Fast forward time into the year 2006, Arkansas, they improved vastly. It's weird I say that because that year started out on a bad note. They got embarrassed in the opening game against USC 50-14. Here's the kicker with that, and it kind of gets overshadowed because McFadden did play in this game. He got into a bar fight before it and he got banged up a little bit. Yeah, that's right, you heard me correctly. He got into a bar fight, or technically, I believe he refers to it as a fight outside the club. Whatever you want to call it, he got into a scuffle. You don't like to see that out of your star running back, but you can chalk it up to, okay, it's a one-time thing, and as long as it doesn't happen again, everything's going to be A-okay. After that USC game, not just for McFadden, but for the entire Arkansas football program, things got a lot better. They ran off not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, not 9, but 10 straight victories. How about that? In that 10-game winning streak, they were beating multiple top 25 teams. They were riding high. Unfortunately, they ended the year with a sour taste in their mouth with a 3-game losing streak. Granted, all 3 of the games were really close, you still lost. And you're not really happy. I don't think anybody's content with a 3-game losing streak, but you still finish the year 10-4. Compared to what was happening the years prior, yeah, you'll take that as a Razorback fan. As far as it goes for McFadden in 2006, he was spectacular. Had 284 carries for 1,647 rushing yards, averaging right at 5.8 per carry and 14 touchdowns. He finished second in the Heisman voting that year and was also named SEC Offensive Player of the Year. Heading into 2007, the secret's out. McFadden is easily one of the best players in the nation. Not just running backs, but players. Teams started game planning for him. However, even at that, you just try to contain him at best. Similar to 2006, though, it was another up and down year, and you really didn't know how to feel about it as a fan. How about this? They started out the season 1-2 with a 3-point loss to Alabama and a 13-point loss to Kentucky. They run off 2 straight against some cupcakes. They didn't lose to Auburn 9-7. 3 losses at the halfway point of the season, not what you like to see, but then they run off 3 more. Sitting at 6-3 with a matchup with Tennessee, they get embarrassed 34-13. You're sitting at 6-4. Most Arkansas fans like, yeah, this year's a waste. But then in the final regular season matchup, they upset number 1 ranked LSU on the road in overtime. That is when Houston Nutt, head coach of Arkansas, has the legendary post-game speech talking about Darren McFadden needs to win the Heisman. And last but not least, you're 8-4. It's like, okay, if we win the bowl game, this would be all right. But you get embarrassed 38-7. You see what I'm saying? Just so up and down. How do you go 8-5 and upset the number 1 team in the nation? It was a pretty wild time to be an Arkansas football fan, despite the, I guess you'd say, wishy-washy performance in 2006 and 7. What wasn't questionable, what wasn't wishy-washy, was McFadden himself. You might not have been able to count on Arkansas football, the team itself, from 2005 all the way up into 2007, but you could always count on Darren McFadden. He was going to show up and perform regardless. Now, whether his teammates did the same, that's a different conversation for a different day. Take a look at these ungodly numbers he put up in 2007. 325 carries for 1,830 yards, averaging 5.6 yards per carry, with 16 touchdowns. Oh yeah, can't forget to mention, partner, he had 4 passing touchdowns in 2007. That's right, you heard me correctly. Not receiving, not punt return, kick return, no, passing touchdowns. You see, a lot of people don't know this, your boy Matt does, because dug up a lot of info when I was doing my research for this video. McFadden played some quarterback in high school. Not only did he play quarterback, but he also played wide receiver and dang near every other position. Dude was an all-around athlete. Similar to 2006 and 2007, he was named SEC Offensive Player of the Year for the 2nd straight season and also finished runner-up in the Heisman voting for, yet again, the 2nd straight season. I don't think enough people talk about how ridiculous it was for him to put up these numbers you're looking at. And I know some people are going to try to argue and say, well, Matt, he should be getting better year after year after year because he's getting bigger and stronger. And I agree, that's a good point. My rebuttal to that would be this right here. Teams, when they see you go off for 2 straight years in the SEC, they start game planning for you even more, and they have the mentality of, okay, we're not going to let one guy beat us. Teams were literally selling out to stop the run, and he still almost had 2,000 rushing yards. That to me is absurd. Let me give you a good analogy here, a better example. It's almost like getting double teamed in basketball and still scoring 30 points. Craziness. It came to a shock to nobody when he announced he's foregoing his final year eligibility and heading to the NFL draft early. This guy was a stud. He was going to be a first-round pick, but at the combine, he helped himself out even more. McFadden ran an unofficial 40-yard dash of 4.27. That was mind-blowing to a lot of people. His official time was only listed at a 4.33. I know, terrible, right? A 4.33 40-yard dash. That's awful. With all that great stuff being said, there was one minor concern that some teams had with him, and that's his off-the-field problems, more so of the incidents at the nightclub. Some people question if this was a guy who had anger problems. Does he get in more trouble that hasn't been documented? So they didn't know what to think about it. Do you just chalk it up to, well, he was a young kid who got into an argument? Or is it bigger than that? Because as we all know, it's little stuff like that that can turn into major problems in the future, for some people at least. And when I tell you that was a minor concern, I mean it was really minor, because his abilities on the field, it outweighed all the concerns. And for that reason, this is why the Raiders were like, don't care, give us the talent, and they selected him with the 4th overall pick in the 2008 NFL Draft. The Raiders signed him to an insane $60 million contract, with almost half of that being guaranteed. In McFadden's rookie year in 2008, it was okay. He had right at 500 rushing yards with 4 touchdowns. It wasn't until 2010 when he had his first really good season where he had over 1,000 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns. After that point, everything was just okay. It wasn't great. It was just alright. It was average. For Oakland, he didn't do anything special for him. He was just, like I said, a sound running back. But then when he went to Dallas in 2015, he had another really great season. This is when he had 239 carries for over 1,000 yards. He didn't play much at all in 2016, and finally in the year 2017, this is when he and everyone else knew his football career was coming to an end, and he retired. He didn't retire because of anything crazy going on. It was just old age. He's been in the NFL for dang near 10 years at that point, and other running backs were passing him up on the depth chart. Here's where things get interesting, though. In 2019, this is when McFadden was arrested for drunk driving and resisting arrest in Dallas. Where at in Dallas, you may ask? No other than a Whataburger parking lot. According to the police, he fell asleep behind the wheel of his car, which was a GMC Yukon. And what's even crazier about this is he fell asleep, not just in some random part of the parking lot, but he was in the drive-thru. Obviously, he was guilty, so he pleaded guilty to a DWI in 2020. He got sentenced to 4 days in jail and had to pay a $1,000 fine, but what I can't get over is how in the crap do you fall asleep in the drive-thru? The incident itself wasn't a huge deal, but it had everybody asking this. Does Darren McFadden have some serious problems going on behind the scenes? According to McFadden himself, he was struggling, and here's what he had to say. It's not something I'm new to being around, referring to alcohol. It's just something that I never thought would catch up to me pretty much. I'm used to being able to go train and do this for however my days, I can do that, but fighting this disease, I knew it was a different animal. Continuing along, being home, not having a lot to do, trying to figure out what to do next, and nothing was there. Alcohol was always there everywhere you turn. Me as a man, I'm like, whatever problems I have, addiction struggles, I can handle it on my own and I can take care of myself. But with this, that wasn't the case. Looking back on that, that was definitely my rock bottom right there. For the hurt I've seen them going through, referring to his family, just from me being in the state I was in, that was pretty much rock bottom for me. I gotta give him credit. He manned up. He said, you know what, I got a problem, I gotta fix it. And that's hard for a lot of us men to admit. I'll address that in just a second. So he wound up entering what is labeled as a quote-unquote intensive outpatient treatment program. This program taught him about the effects of alcohol on the body and how to open up about his struggles. Darren also added, I've been an alcoholic. I know what it is. I know the hurt it causes you and your family. If I can just tell somebody and bring them along and get them off of their boat, that's one of my main goals. As where it stands today, I am proud and happy to announce that Mr. Darren McFadden is 100% sober. He's a father now, has a great family. You love to see it. But going back to his struggles, I think we should talk about it because men's mental health doesn't get talked about enough. As you know, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you would know your boy Matt isn't the most sympathetic person walking on this planet. That's not a secret here. But I'm going to tell you something. With all the videos I've made covering subjects like this over the many years, and as I've gotten older and slightly matured, I've realized addiction, it's a real thing and it's a real problem. And when people get addicted, although it's hard for me to fully understand it because I've never been addicted to something, it's hard for them to step away from that. It's hard for them to not be addicted. And therefore, at that point in time, it really becomes a mental problem. And what's so impressive to me about all of this is Darren McFadden is a top-tier athlete. I mean, he reached the pinnacle for any athlete out here, and he still put his ego and pride aside. The reason I bring that up is because NFL players and NBA players, especially in Darren McFadden's shoes, who got it out the mud, made something out of nothing, they have the mentality of, hey, I got here by myself and I don't need anybody's help. And I can't blame them for that. Professional athletes are extremely confident people, and men in general are confident, and we don't want to admit when we need help or when we're wrong or anything of that nature. Because men, when we admit we have a problem or we need help, etc., we view it, and I think society views it, as a sign of weakness, although it shouldn't be that way. I think it should be applauded. And hold on, I'm going to do this. Clap it up to Darren McFadden in the comment section. He nipped his problem in the bud, and I'm sure a lot of you out here, you know a family member or have a family member who can't put the pride aside and they let addiction, alcoholism, whatever, ruin their life for the next 30, 40 years, so on. Another thing I want to address is the dark side and sad reality of being an athlete. He stated it. What started him getting addicted to alcohol was the fact that he wasn't playing football anymore and he had nothing to do but sit around the house. He's got all this money, so it's not like he needed to work another job somewhere. All he was doing was drinking and reminiscing and thinking about the glory days. And I know a lot of people joke about, oh, well, this person peaked in high school, but to tell you the truth, it's not high school itself. It's more so of the best moments of most men's lives are when they were playing sports with their buddies. I still to this day have conversations with some of my buddies. Not a lot, but we'll bring up a certain game or a play or a memory that was on the field, whether that be football, baseball, or in the basketball gym, something like that. Those were the good old days. No bills, no problems, didn't have to worry about this. Just going out there having fun. And once that's gone, you lose that sense of purpose. And when you don't have purpose as a man or even a female, that's a very bad place to be in. I can't speak for you, but for me, purpose is what drives me every single day. I'm trying to become a better version of Matt Be Great every single day. Whereas with Darren McFadden here, he really beat the game of life already at the age of whenever he retired, around his late 30s. I know I'm rambling here. I'm just trying to explain the mentality behind all of this. It's a similar thing as to why Tom Brady couldn't walk away from the game. That's the greatest example I could give you. Remember when Tom Brady retired for, what was it, like 6 weeks? It was like, no, I'm coming back. You know why that happened, right? He retired, he went home for 6 weeks, and he couldn't take it. He literally couldn't sit still and just not compete. I could go on and on to Darren McFadden, my brother. If you somehow, someway seen this video, super proud of you. The resiliency you showed to overcome that, I admire it a ton. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down below. But